I am from KwaZulu-Natal. I got a scholarship from South African Airways to study winemaking. And actually, at the beginning, when they told me I was going to be studying winemaking, I was like, winemaking, and I thought of ciders. And I was like, yes, I'm going to be making, ciders. I thought it was wine. That was wine for me. And when I arrived in Stellenbosch and tasting the first wine that our guide in Jablani had given us to taste, I realized that, wine was something which was actually completely different than what I thought it was. And it tasted horrible. And basically, I remember, when people speak about these things that they love the most, they tell you it's got plums, it's got this, and you're thinking, can you just shut up so that I can taste, because this is going to be really delicious. And then you put it in your mouth and you're thinking, and then they go, so what do you think? They're all smiling and expecting your answer, then you go, it's nice. So you realize that that's the most horrible thing that you tasted. But it was one of those things, and I studied in Stellenbosch. It was difficult to be in Stellenbosch. It was a complete different world than what I know and what I knew then. So there was a lot of adjustments that had to happen. And from there, basically, I worked part-time at Delham Wines as a student, and that's where I learned more about wine. I started drinking wine. I used to like Saturdays because after work, you're allowed to take any open bottle as a student and take it home. And so I would have all these beautiful wines and, starting drinking something good as a student. And when I finished my studies, I got a job at Stellenbosch Wines. So here I am, 13 years later. I think my highlights, it's difficult really to say what the highlight is, or the low lights and whatever I can call it. But I can just name a few things that I can remember that excited. I think for me, starting my own brand has been like a milestone, very exciting. I think, as a winemaker, I'll tell you one of the most exciting things that I enjoy is when I'm having a glass of wine with people. They take a sip and I look at their body expression. I just love that. It's always, because when I make the wine, it's basically, it has to take somebody on a journey. So I always enjoy watching people taking a sip and looking at their body language. And for me, that's exciting. I think in the wine industry, the wine industry is big yet so small. When you look at the ratio of women winemakers versus men, we're still not in balance. And that's one of the things that actually, as much as we want to get there, it's like you need to get more women being winemakers, being interested into winemaking. And I think having those awards, Landbouweekblad Women Winemaker of the Year, it's not like we're competing for anything, it's just to lift our spirits up. It's one of those who say, you know what, I'm making a wine, I'm looking forward to get something out of it. We do all the other competitions, our wines with awards, but it's nice to have just something which is different. And for me, that basically was one of those, Women Winemaker of the Year. It's like as women, we're nurturers. To have that award, it's like, wow, I've nurtured well my kids. When I was nominated for this African Women Entrepreneurship Program, which was funded by the States Department, it was one of the most fascinating things. And I was like, okay, it's more like I'm going to learn and all those things. Only to find when I got there, when you're surrounded with all these African women from all over Africa, they've got businesses that are $1 million businesses. And you're like, I'm basically surrounded by the greatness, people who've worked, and you listen to the struggles they have, what we don't have in South Africa. That this woman, she owns $1 million company, but it has to be written under her husband because you're a woman. And you realize that as women in South Africa, we've got so much that we can do. Yes, we've got our own struggles and whatnot, but basically the world is more of an oyster for us because we don't have to ask the hubby or our child, because he's a male, to sign off the bank statement. I can do it myself, irrespective. And I think when we were there, it was one of those beautiful things that we basically were learning about how America does business. and how as Africans do business, and just to get motivated. I think it's not something that I think in South Africa, the beautiful thing, we do have these women networks, but we just need a consolidation, because you get these little bits and pieces in different areas, and you're like, actually, we just probably need just one big one in Cape Town and one each and every province, and then have a big one on top. But those are things, obviously, that as time goes on, as women will be working on, because we'll talk for those who are good in implementing stuff like that. They can do it. This is the year I can say I have grown. I can acknowledge my growth and say, I've learned. I've met people, I've learned, and things are happening. 2016, I'm now basically a consultant at Stelikaya. And I've started my own brand, which is called Aslina, named after my grandmother. I think after sharing that a cup of Cape Cross together, I felt, to honor her, even though she's late, but I believe her spirits live on. I am who I am because of her, so I thought I should honor her, and I named my brand Aslina. And basically, currently my wine is selling in Denmark, Germany, and it's going to be going to the US and Taiwan. So, yeah, it's exciting times. I think for women, whether you want to get into the wine industry or you want to get to anything, do not be intimidated by anybody, because nobody knows what tomorrow holds. And you cannot judge your presence or your future by looking at other people's, because there are things that other people experience and you're not going to experience them. And I know that the wine industry sometimes is put on a blind, I don't know, but on the spot, that it's like, obviously it's a bad place and whatnot. But some of us cannot talk about the bad part of it, mostly because we most experience the good part of it. So it becomes difficult for us to say, no, it's bad, it's this. But you just have to know what you want and go for it. Don't be stopped by anything or anybody.